Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I was going to go into an energetic update, but I think I just want to go into flow and see what comes through. And it may contain parts of the energetic update about what we're feeling and experiencing right now, moving into the latter weeks of December and January. So this is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis, although I have a feeling we will be talking about some things that we're experiencing in this timeline reality dimension. Multidimensionality. Multidimensional reality. So as I drop in this moment and I tune into what is available for me to access in this field of resonance and sound, of frequency and light, I allow myself to expand my horizons. I expand myself to see new horizons that may be beyond the horizon that I'm used to expanding myself into. And every time I drop in, I tune into a frequency or different type of signature that might hold a resonance for me to key into. A different sound or highlight light compatibility that I then am able to click into. It clicks with me and I click with it, and therefore we click clack away on the keyboard or the key, the motherboard, the new way of tuning into the sequencing that is associated with our own technology. And this can be accessed in so many different ways. It can be accessed through the portal of the breath, the mind's eye view, the bird's eye view, the bird and the snake, the brain, as well as the frequency that travels through the, I'm hearing luminosity, and spiral container of the spine. For our bodies are tuning into much right now, and we must access what it is that we are tuning into through the body and the mechanisms of the body. And so we invite you to stop and drop in for a moment. For as you reclaim your own power to do this, you recognize that there is much that is seeking your resonance. There is much that is seeking seeking you out, to pull you out of resonance. And while you cannot ever really truly be out of resonance with reality or out of resonance with frequency and vibration, for it is in all things, we speak now of coherence. A coherent state of being that allows one to feel into the complexity and energies of life in a much more vivid, coherent, peaceful, blissful interaction. For this is what we are needing. I'm seeing like kneading like bread, to become more acquainted with, and we can then move out of the antiquated systems that are no longer necessary but are creating strong impact zones because of habitual programming that we have been impacted by, that we have zoned into before, that we have been zoned into. So I'm seeing people that have been like put in a container, for example, like this is who you are, so this is how you should play. This is your zone, and this is my zone. So I'm just being called to remind everybody that this is changing and shifting. So as we allow ourselves to feel into this greater expanse, beyond that which we have ridden before, we become more aware of how it is that we are riding these waves, and we become more of the, I'm hearing a lot of different words. I'm seeing a lot of pictures. So I'm basically seeing like someone doing a hula, right? Aloha. I'm seeing a reference to a dance, a movement, a pattern, a wave, right? We become the wave riders, but I'm seeing we're writing it, W-R-I-T-I-N-G. So we create the patterns. And this leads me back to a video I just did and I'm not sure if I'm going to be posting it directly after this or before this. But one of the words that had come through was polynomial embedding. And essentially, I'm being called to play with that in just a moment. So maybe this will be part 2. Okay. So I'm going to drop into a different kind of flow, and I'm just going to trust. This is going to be a very potentially technical flow. I'm not really sure. Let me just see. Okay, I'm going to drop it. Do my best. And we invite you not to get lost in the soup, in this architecture that we are spinning and embedding into. For our frequency of conduction is expanding, and so are we. So as we write our way into the next level or layer of frequency, we can create a flow and unity within which to embed within. That which it is we are climbing in bed with, that which we feel comforted by, that which we are quilting our way into, gives us the ability to fly into what was presumed or previously presumably a no-fly zone. For these no-fly zones that we are now accessing hold patterns that we are not used to recognizing. Yet when we tune into these patterns of recognition, we blend with, we merge with, and we increase our capacity to embed with these frequency dynamics that were previously inaccessible. Yet they have always been within. They have always been something we have been capable of accessing. They have always been, yet we have been incompatible at times, and therefore unable to match up with the frequency of the time. For time was a quantitative structure that built upon itself, and yet we have now broken the clock, so to speak, and we are merging with these frequencies in such a dynamic and fluid exchange or rate of adaptability that it is no longer something that is easily recognizable in the mainframe of energy. So therefore, the programmers, if you wish to call them that, you, or past versions of you, or future higher ergonomical, accessing bins are being restored. And we could go into so many different variations here, because how is it that we wish to play with these energies? We could use words and terminology to increase our compatibility and our conductibility. For allowing the flow to map into the conductibility allows us to map or increase our mappability. It increases how much we see on the map. It increases our verbal wattage. It increases our verbiage. It increases our ability to access nouns, to use action, to take action, to create action at a distance in this now moment. For as we allow ourselves to create this expandability, we then let go of this need to contract. We let go of the contracts. We let go of the holding contractual patterns that have kept us in contraction for so long. We let go of the need to look at these and to move past. We move past into, play on words, we move past the past. We pass into the new spectrum, the new relevancy of our reality. For what is relevant now is less relevant in the future. Yet what is relevant now is more relevant to the future than we may realize. So we look at our past and we realize that many of the things we thought were relevant no longer hold the same pattern. So do we choose to dance in the same way? Do we choose to repattern and coordinate to the same coordinates on our map that no longer holds that same spectrum of interest, spectrometry, geometry, spectrometry, the tree? I'm seeing the tree of life, the tree of grand design. For we have expanded not only our branches, but our roots. And our roots are synapses, and our synapses are patterns that are firing within not only our own synaptical display of the brain that can be seen through the plasmatic manifolds, if you will, of reality, For we each see energy in a different way. And from our human technology and skin suit, we cannot see these synapses at play. But from a higher perspective, or through the source frequency in which these synapses are firing, through the medium in which the synapses are expanding out into, and the chemical alignments are being felt, and I'm hearing ATP. That can be seen. It can be seen from a bird's eye view. And so we invite you to feel into all of the synapses that are firing, to allow this beautiful fireworks, if you will, to be restored within, to restore inside of this, because all of the pins that you are dropping in your reality and on your map are creating a ping, are creating a somanaptic, firing transcribability. It gives the other beings within our field the ability to transcribe what it is that you are producing and accessing as a human collective. For all is connected, and the more that we can increase our own human directive, our own human synapture, ooh, that's a play on words, synaptic impulse, electronic availability, electrosymptomatic, I'm seeing like a combination of all of these words. So I'm also seeing synaptic, entropic, versus negentropic, and move into this space, it allows us to create a broader schematic for all to adapt with. So what I'm seeing is we're sending out this ripple effect. We're sending out this broad bandwidth. The more we increase our frequency and vibration, it's a ripple effect. It's action at a distance. We're then having a massive impact on the future versions of not only us, but all of us, all of our reality. If you picture each one of us as a synapse in a giant brain, we are constantly communicating with the network that we are intrinsically part of, for we are the network. Yet we're doing it at an individual level and an individual basis, based on having an individual experience, because that is the reality that we are currently contained within. But it's I'm getting back to, that's so funny, contained, contamination, contractual. So it's like we agreed to have this performance, to see it from a certain way. And then we act out our reality and perform based on agreements that we've made. But what I'm being shown is we're transforming all of those agreements, because we're changing how it is that we're interacting with reality. Therefore, the contracts that we once held are now null and void, for we have expanded out into a greater void of creation. Therefore, because we have free will, we are mapping into this creation now, which means we must decide now which future contracts we wish to create. When I say contract, I'm being shown an architecture. And I'm really being called to play with this. So I'm just going to pause I'm not going to pause, I'm just going to share. Contract can mean multiple things. So one of the messages that I've been getting is to clear out the contracts, the obligatory frequency that is scaling us back, that is keeping us scaled into a particular geometry or subset of reality that is riddled, I'm playing with this, riddled with distortions. So even those things that we think we needed to be a part of are not necessarily truly something that we are obligated to become a part of anymore, even though we might have once been in that place. So, contract, etymology, I'm on Etym Online. To draw into a smaller compass, become smaller, shrink. That's one version. Other version is make an agreement to agree establish, or to undertake mutually. Okay. Another version of this is to draw several objects together, to draw in, to shorten, lessen, or to abridge. So that's to merge, put together. To make an agreement, assimilated from of come, together, to draw. To acquire as by habit or contagion, become infected with, also has to do with contract. Sense of make narrow, draw together the parts of something to cause it to shrink. Ooh. To shorten a word or syllable by combining or eliding concurrent elements. Okay, so when I look at this, boom, I have so much that I just got out of this particular etymology, because I had been getting a huge message about let go of the contracts. What is it that we're doing that we are shrinking ourselves to do? But this is part of what so I guess I'm going to go into this because it's a little bit important, and I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm just going to trust. So, because I was really enjoying that spin, but it's important to also share the deeper meaning of this as I go, because I know sometimes my wordology can be out there. What I was shown is that we came into this reality with contracts, obligations, agreements, and vows to undertake, and I'm going to play with the words I'm using here, mutually. However, in order to come into this body and in order to come into this reality, we had to shrink ourselves or to compress ourselves, to make ourselves more compact in order to have an individual experience based on a linear perception. When we made these agreements, so let's say before we came into this physical body, before birth, and we did this, and when we had these agreements, we set up a container in which we would be held within, or a house, not just our bodies, but our physical reality. We grew up with a particular family, and within that family dynamic, we had certain agreements. Sometimes in order to fulfill those agreements, we had to become smaller at the time. It felt like we had to compromise too much, or we felt like we had to do things that maybe weren't pleasant, like not having a pleasant childhood. Yet what that does is it essentially allowed us to abridge, okay, to lessen, even though we shrank. So we shrink energetically to come into these bodies because our light is massive, right? That's one way of looking at it. And maybe we became smaller, or we became less of ourselves because we had to go and do all of these agreements from one perspective. But I loved, it says to draw into a smaller compass. So it's like our direction was smaller because we had to have these individual experiences in order to complete certain things. Maybe it was karma, maybe it was energetic completion, maybe it was an experience that we never really were able to fulfill to balance out the energies. So that's part of why we came here, okay? But also the other meaning of this is to draw several objects together. So that gave us the opportunity, so it's not just about us. When we complete those contracts, it's also about the other person or people that are now coming together mutually to abridge. And what that means is it actually can increase our ability to get certain things done, or to complete certain missions, or to complete certain experiences. And that shortened the contract somehow, meaning all of a sudden we didn't have to go through 10 different experiences to have that same experience. We just met that one person that lined up on our map, that was a pin on our map, and in that moment our synapses fired. And then we created a drawbridge to all kinds of things. So this is a multidimensional way of looking at what contracts mean. However, if we broaden out, we've moved beyond a lot of that because we shrank ourselves. It's done. We've abridged. And many of us are feeling, oh, also I want to talk about the contagion a little bit because it says to acquire as by habit or contagion. So let's look at that for a moment, because what have we recently had with certain diseases or sicknesses that were introduced into our reality that some of us are like, well, was that a contract that I had? Why did I experience that? I will say my experiences with some of the sicknesses that have been introduced into our reality was life-changing. It shifted my entire awareness around myself, my loved ones, and my reality. And for me, it was a massive synapse or node point in my life that gave me access to a myriad of other things I never would have felt the same way about, recognized, understood, or had ahas about had I have not gone through that particular contagion or contract, right? So I wanted to just share that. Also, it was a collective thing. Many of us went through it, not just one. So it almost was an ability to have a lot of things happen at the same time in a shorter period of time. This is the definition that I'm getting. It's also habit. So we're getting it through habit. So oftentimes we're completing these things by patterns that we're following. And that's where I'm going to lead into the next thing. And that's what I'm being shown to remind everybody we do not have to follow those same habits, contagions, infections, etc. We do not necessarily need to shrink or become smaller or to see things from a smaller compass. We have more directions on the sphere now. We have more, we've expanded. Let's say there's more continents to explore that we did not know were there before. Even though they were, now we're like, oh, guess what? A new continent has been discovered. A new part of our body has been discovered. Deeper access to our brain, whatever it might be. These are the things to keep in mind. And what I'm hearing is continuity. Okay, so is there anything else I'm missing here? So, that shortening or shrinking actually could make a lot of information be compacted into one moment. That was the other thing I wanted to share. Okay. So we have all established a huge line of, I'm hearing ones and zeros. We all have codes within us, within our DNA, within our network, within our vocabulary. Okay, I'm being called. So, okay. So when I say vocabulary, I hear what it is that we carry, our cab, what we're driving. I'm hearing it like our cab, it's our car, right? We have much more in our vocabulary. So with which to work with, our speech, right? How it is we communicate. But if I go into this deeper, which is hilarious to me, and I look at the etymology of vocabulary, the word helmet comes up, which is helm, which is our ship, which is our cab that we're driving. It's our vehicle, okay? But also helm is the driver's seat, right? The helm. But in here, it's helmet, and which reminds me of our head, our crown, our brain. And it's also reference to action of remembering, which is ironic because now, and it also talks about holding ink. So it had to do with an inkhorn, had to do with just vocabulary. Oh, there's so much here. So I'm just seeing all of the, I did not know that all of the etymology of that. And I've used all of those words at different times to describe this vocabulary. Ooh, that lighting's pretty crazy. Okay. Wow, that looks, I have to use that lighting more often. look like a cartoon character right now. So all of the synapses that are firing in our brain are actually firing outside of us as well. For that which is within is without, and it is not necessarily without a particular direction. For as we create the wave patterns, as we create our energetic surges, if you will, it surges out and tickles the horizon. It surges out and tickles that which has been untickled previously. Or it may also tickle that which has been tickled previously. And we now remember and feel the essence. I'm hearing tingles, tickles and tingles, the essence of what it is that we have forgotten. We then are able to restore our faculties. This has to do with our brain, our DNA, our ability to understand our environment, our adaptability, our resonance, our nervous system, all of it. And because of this, we are able to harness certain things such as clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clarity. We begin to hear, see, feel, know, and hold a perspective or interpret with more clarity all of these sensations that are being accessed inside of the body. The brain is continually creating a map and is offering us a resource or a guide, a guidance phenomena to allow us to tune into this phenomena that is part of our universal communication vocabulary system. Many of us have restored this before, but have forgotten and now are remembering it again, turning it on and igniting the ignition, or taking the ignition, taking the reins, so to speak, and moving forward in the recognition that more is available to us now. And we play with this for a moment. So I'm being invited to drop into a deeper word bank. Uh-oh. Let us not forget that diversity in language has created adversity in the form of debate. Yet we would invite you, rather than looking at this an adversity, to move into the embeddability of our vocabulary, to pull out certain letters and numbers that have been habitually destroyed before. So remembering that nothing is really destroyed, yet that particular pattern might have been let go of, or I'm being shown like that theory was destroyed. That theory didn't hold, it's no longer part of what we believe. Yet here we are, it's back again, and we're like, wait a minute, maybe that did have some truth to it. I'm hearing go deeper, so I'm going to go deeper into this. So you guys, when I walk and meditate, I have not started a blog or a podcast yet. I have so many things to upload into a podcast. This is the kind of style that it sounds like. And it's all wordplay and it's multi-layered. And I'm always shown a Rubik's Cube with different sides of the Rubik's Cube. If you could be inside the Rubik's Cube looking out, what it would look like. If you could then turn each of those cubes while you're staring at it, it would also shift the meaning of the entire cube that you're standing within. And then if you were to look at it from the outside, all of that would have a completely different meaning. I mean, just, it all depends on perspective. So we are harnessing this language currently in this particular transmission, and we ride this particular packet of information like a wave. And as we allow this wave to move through and pulsate, it sends out a bulge. It sends out a frequency that pushes through the hourglass, the bulge of time, communication, of bandwidths. It bulges out and explores more. It allows certain things that were compressed to be expanded. It allows certain things that were incomprehensible to be, oh, this is a play on words, but I'm hearing reprimanded. Okay, that's a play on, okay, so, okay. I'm just laughing because we think of reprimand. I think of reprimanded, which is like to yell at someone or tell them that they're not doing the right, they're in trouble. But, and that is what it talks about. But if you break down the word, it's to strike forward and through, have a strong effect on the mind or heart. It forms all or part of compress, depress, express, impress, to push against. So, and that's the bulge. So we're pushing against, right? We're expanding out and creating a signal, a sound, a wave, a way of interacting with our reality. So as we drop into this frequency, we must, me and my higher guidance team and I, allow the movement of the words to flow through, to become an exchange that is in part with the particles, a fluid motion all in one. The sentences may merge together, the words may fluctuate in and out of linear representation or a cubical exchange, one might say. Yet within this linear presentation and the way that these words are being shared in a sentence, there is a multidimensional application behind the scenes. And the behind the scenes are the codes in which the reality is created. Behind the scenes are where we came from. Behind the scenes are the actual stage that the play is taking place on, or better spoken, it is the articles that make up the pieces, that make up the particles that are then placed in an order that then create a stage awareness. I'm hearing perceptual awareness, aware of our surroundings. And I'm just seeing codes like the Matrix. If you guys haven't seen that movie, I highly encourage you to watch it. We are then able to acknowledge certain codes that were unnoticeable before. And we are then able to apply them within a certain frequency exchange that gives us the ability to adapt and embed with that code. Therefore, codes that were inaccessible before were being stored in a network in hibernation, we may say. And now we are in a hyperbolic reacquisition of these particular templates. And these particular templates that are spinning, these templates that are held within the neural network of the human, are now being accessed at full speed, full disclosure, full speed ahead. And this creates the need for speed. Like, I'm feeling a need for speed to rev up our engines, to rev up our motors, to start the system whole again, to come back into a completeness, if you will, a complete resolution or ability to see with more resolution and more clearly, clairaudiently, clairvoyantly, and so on and so forth. For we are beyond the string, alphabet string, the string that we were handed. Meaning many of us felt as if we were given the short strand, the short stick, the short strand. And yet these strands have woven together, blended and merged, and synaptically, it's a play on words, optically, synapses, synoptically, cinematic representation, synoptically embedded into this particular version of reality, which holds applications for multidimensional spectrality. plays on words, merges with words, blending and merging our versions of reality with the template and structure of the higher matrices. This gives the higher matrices the ability to clairvoyantly, from one perspective and all of the others, see beyond and help send back to us the signals that we require in order to move through the wire with less jitter. Okay, this is a reference to a previous channeling that I did, and it has to do with the jitters, like the noise. We move up the wire in electricity, we clear out the clutter, and we're able to now hear clearer with less interruption, we could say. For this interruption this interruption that is happening inside the collective of humans, or inside the individual skin suit template, if you will, is also happening at the quantum structure, the quantum layers. And this eruptibility is allowing for I'm just seeing this bulge again, and I'm seeing like something about a sonic boom. And I'm being called to say, what is a sonic boom? Okay, so I'm just going to read this, because what I came into was sonic boom and sound. So this is funny how this all works. So let's go into the Doppler effect is the frequency shift of a sound due to the motion of the sound source or the observer. A source emits a sound of a given frequency. If the source is moving towards the observer hears a higher frequency, a shorter wavelength sound than the one it emitted. If the source is moving away from the observer, a lower frequency, high wavelength sound is heard. Ooh, I'm not sure exactly how this relates, but we'll find out later, I'm sure. And kind of what I'm getting is that, if you're in front, so let's say we're talking about our future versions of ourselves. Just the sound emitting out this bulge. And what I was being shown is that our guidance team, and this is a linear interpretation of how this works. So I'm sure there's a much more multidimensional way of looking at things. But essentially we have this wavelength and it's shorter waves. So it's almost like we're reaching our future. Okay, two different variations. We're reaching our future versions of us faster. So this has to do with sound. Maybe this has to do with time, I'm not sure. But also the future version of us is closer to us. It feels closer, this higher vibration, and it's a higher sound. It's a higher pitch. So I'm using this as in reference to vibration. It's an analogy, right? Or metaphor. So essentially what's happening is the higher frequency we get, the closer the waves are together, right? And the higher the frequency is, and we're closer to it. And also the beings that we're helping everyone by us raising our frequency. It's not just, everything is evolving. So the more we evolve, the faster the universe evolves, in essence, because everything is connected. I don't know if I said action at a distance in this particular recording, but in my other one I was talking about the spooky action at a distance is created faster, like faster than the speed of light. Okay, now I'm seeing sonic boom. So a sonic boom is, I believe, faster than light. Okay, so a sonic boom is a sound associated with shock waves created when an object travels through the air faster than the speed of sound. Sonic booms generate enormous amounts of sound energy, sounding similar to an explosion or a thunderclap to the human ear. Now this is talking about the literal sonic boom, but what I'm seeing energetically, and this is in reference to what I had been writing about earlier, I'm kind of seeing a theme here, and that is we're creating this wave, and I'm going to call it a sonic boom. This sonic boom or bulge is essentially moving ahead of whatever it is that's been created previously. And this is just one interpretation. So let's talk about our 3D reality. Our 3D reality is theoretically moving slower than we are, those of us who are raising our frequency. And by the way, there's no judgment against 3D reality, because we're moving through, we're bridging all of it. So what we're doing is we are, a lot of times you'll hear spiritual speakers say, we're on the front edge, we're on the cutting edge, we're on the edge, we're leading the way. Well, we're leading the wave is essentially what it is. We, as in those of us who are creating at a higher speed of frequency, which doesn't necessarily mean faster, but it could mean that the waves are shorter and closer together of a higher frequency and vibration. And this is what the guides are constantly saying. We're creating a reality. So this gives us the ability to break through the barrier beyond the horizon of where we were told we could go before, because we've shifted so dynamically that it gives us access to all kinds of things, portals, different time bands, different versions of reality. Okay, so this is so funny. Oh, I'm just going to keep going. I love this. So when an aircraft, I'm on Wikipedia right now, sonic boom. When an aircraft passes through the air, it creates a series of pressure waves in front of the aircraft and behind it. So this leads me back to what I was being, it doesn't matter. Similar to the bow and stern waves created by a boat. And I was just saying we're bowing out, right? Bowing. These waves travel at the speed of sound, and as the speed of the object increases, the waves are forced together or compressed because they cannot get out of each other's way quickly enough. I love this. Do you guys see the analogy here? It's just so much fun. So, and then this gets at the speed of sound, a critical speed known as Mach 1. So, oh boy, there's so much here that I can't even get into all of it. Now, what's interesting to me is I keep getting references to double, two of these. And a lot of us who are in the spiritual community, so to speak, if we feel that resonates for us, are hearing, okay, we've got two timelines, we've got two realities playing out. I've been hearing that a lot. And I would venture to say we have a lot of realities playing out. But let's just play with this for a moment. It's talking about, there is a rise in pressure at the nose, decreasing steadily to a negative pressure at the tail, followed by a sudden return to normal pressure after the object passes. This overpressure profile is known as an N wave because of its shape. The boom is experienced when there is a sudden change in pressure. Therefore, an N wave causes two booms. One, when the initial pressure rises, reaches an observer, and another when the pressure returns to normal. This leads to a distinctive double boom from a supersonic aircraft. I just find this so symbolic because and I'll come back to this maybe and kind of break it down at a later time. Okay. So I'm just going to try to keep it back into flow and end on this note. And so as we shift our speeds and as we drop into the speed or the currency that allows us to flow with more efficiency and fluidity, we begin to challenge ourselves to keep up with the speed. Yet we are, and I'm hearing ourselves, therefore we are being required to increase our, boy, I'm hearing so many things, rate of variability. So as we increase our rate of variability, we increase our ability to move in this sea or ocean of currency, electricity, magnetic, I'm hearing restoration, and this is a play on words too, because I'm being reminded this is happening inside the earth as well. So what is rate of variability? Well, the first thing I'm drawn to every time is heart math. So heart rate variability is where the amount of time between your heartbeats fluctuates slightly. And you want this to be a flow rather than high and low. So in heart math, what they teach is when you meditate or you go into your heart space, and this is ironic because this is what my guides have been talking about again and again and again. It seems it's all about heart coherence. And this is something, you know, that yogis have been talking about for so long. Sorry, I'm in 10 different places right now. My friend Kat had introduced me to heart math years ago. And I said, well, it's just yoga. But the thing about heart math, it's nice. And then I think Dan Winters has a product as well, which is on his fractalfield.com. It's called, oh, I can't remember, but you can check it out there. Heart. Anyways, I'm bringing that up because essentially you want to work on the heart rate. If you're adding to, oh boy, I could go in, I'm seeing a parallel here. Bottom line is get into the heart, get into coherence, and that allows the energy to be more fluent. But this is to do with not just heart math. Okay, here we go. So I'm on health.harvard.edu, so Harvard education. And this is a really great article because it talks about what is HRV, so I would recommend checking this out. But I love this part because it's talking about HRV may offer a non-invasive way to signal imbalances in the autonomic nervous system, right? So are we in fight or flight mode? Is our cortisol up, right? And this is something that we teach in meditation and breathing. Breathing is so important for this. You might see a connection. So people who have a high HRV, right, heart rate variability, may have greater cardiovascular fitness and may be more resilient to stress. Bottom line. So this is what they're talking about. It's like increase your rate of variability, but there's more to that as well. So just be aware of this and go to heartmath.com, check out Dan Winters' stuff, start doing the research if you're not sure what that is. It's very relevant, especially for right now, because all of these our sensitivities are opening. We're becoming more sensitive to our environment. We're becoming more sensitive to sound and feelings and emotions because our nervous system is responding to our own innate evolution. Well, it's part of our own innate evolution. So the more we can do to support this, the more resilience we're going to have for so many reasons. I really want to call too, heart rate variability is different than just your heart rate. So there's a difference. And I just invite you guys to just look that up and do your research and understand it a little bit if you feel called to. So in heart math, for example, and when I'm teaching somebody meditation, I just start with breathe in for 5 counts and breathe out for 5 counts and just find that rhythm. And that helps to allow the heart to find a rhythm, to stabilize the body and the nervous system. And then you can use the visualization tools and techniques such as gratitude and appreciation. It's a frequency and a vibration. Okay, I'm not going to get hung up on the whole variability thing, but yeah, so we're going to kind of end on this note and close it up. And so all of these words and language and adaptation that we have with the way in which we communicate is shifting our view, or should we say our view is shifting, and therefore our communication must adapt as well in order to match the frequency or to shift with this. For our rate of variability is enhancing and expanding out, and therefore our speed or rate of understanding our environment is then mirrored or reflected back to us at a higher speed of variance. So there's all play on words. But we invite everyone listening to feel into the chemicals of your own body. Have you noticed that things feel different? Have you noticed that your relationship with time feels different? Do you feel as if certain things are less stressful, yet other things are more stressful? We invite you to tune into these stresses and relieve yourself of these stresses. Allow yourself to be in a much more adaptable variance so that you can feel into the variety of different energies that are coming in to associate or to help us associate new preference points, new reference points, new places of reference that we can refer back to in order to enhance our perspective, our view, our I'm seeing is it the Peruvian man, the anatomical position. So I'm being shown a compass again. Like, here's the compass, right? So there it is. We can see from many different angles that we weren't able to see before. So on this note, we are all accessing a deeper set of information. And when we say information, it means a representation of the field, of reality, of the matrix, of our DNA. And we all have threads of information held within the very hairs of our head. For our bodies are a conduit system that has been implemented into a way of communication, or we use as an implementation of communication to enhance our reality. We are not just enhancing our reality as humans, we are enhancing the reality of all beings, moving forward, backwards, sideways, up and down, in all versions of reality and all schematics. Therefore, when you think you do not have an important role to play, we would sit and say, you each have an important part to play, for you are all parts of the entire play that you are co-creating in this manifestation that is reality. And the more you can allow yourself to feel into your own play, joy, abundance, happiness, the more you are able to access, and the more access you give to those who are learning from you, who are feeling what it is that you are sending out. So we end on this note and invite you to send out your own signals and chemicals and energies that are important to share. We know that you may not always feel compassion. You may not always feel the ability to feel into compassion. But we say now that compassion is the most important energy to feel if you can, when you can access it. For when you access it, others are able to access it also. For you are a synapse in the brain of the synaptical mapping system that you are all connected to at a distance, yet never really distance from the source. It only feels that way. So I'm going to end on that note. In love and light, guys. Namaste. Have fun co-creating. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching these videos. To be continued.